Steam curled from my coffee as I opened the porch door expecting only cedar air and the calm lake. Instead, an SUV idled at the tree line, its headlights cutting a pale scar across the cove. Cedar cut the chill. Dew darkened the boards beneath my boots. The cabin had that capable stillness I admire in old things square to the water, indifferent to chatter. Headlights slid through the pines and vanished. Doors thumped. 5 figures came down my path in a tight little wedge, Karen at the point chin high, a manila folder against her ribs. Behind her, 2 board members, a compliance officer with a clipboard, and a big man wearing a radio like a brooch. They took my dock without asking. "Good morning, Mr. Reese," Karen said. "We're here about the Shoreline. The one attached to my deed." I kept my voice even-hand around the mug. "The association's Shoreline," the compliance officer said, pen clicking. "Common amenity. It isn't recorded that way," I said. "Recorded is what counts." Karen's gaze slid past me to the rolled plastic tube by my door. She noticed the scuffs on the cap. She noticed everything. "Let's not posture," she said. "Let's cooperate." "Define it," I said. "Inspection." She laid the folder on my rail, opened it with a little flourish, and showed me a printed memo with HOA letterhead centered a hair too low, as if someone trusted a template more than they should. "Per covenants and established use, the Shoreline is common. Your dock, your fence posts, their encroachments. We'll need to post notice." "Established use travels by rumor," I said. "Boundaries travel by plat." The big man's radio hissed and fell quiet. "We'll need to see your documents," the clipboard said. "You'll see everything the county sees," I said. "At the county." Karen smiled with no warmth in it. "You're new to how we do things here." "I'm not new to paper," I said. Across the cove, Mr. Lewis's screen door creaked. A paddle knocked a canoe gunwale hollow as a drum. The air smelled like wet bark and the first cut of spring. "What exactly do you think you own?" I asked. "The cove," Karen said as if naming a household pet. "Access Shoreline common ground to the high water mark." "My deed covers the mouth-to-mouth," I said. "Parcel ID ending in 307B. The compliance officer scribbled and didn't look up. "We're going to keep this simple," Karen said. "We'll document, we'll escalate, and you'll attend the board at 7. If you're reasonable, we can avoid fines." "Reasonable looks like staying in your lane," I said. One board member tugged his sleeve over his knuckles. The big man shifted his weight eyes on the water as if the lake might weigh in. Karen fanned a page. "Here's the boundary memo. I didn't touch it. I'll pass." "You refuse to accept notice?" she asked. "I refuse to pretend your memo outranks the record." She tilted her head. "You enjoy the sound of yourself making points." "I enjoy things that stand up in minutes," I said. "You did bring minutes last meeting that put a little crack in the glass." The board member's pen paused mid-air. "We're not here to argue," the compliance officer said. "We're here to post." "Do what you came to do," I said. "Then be on your way." Karen's mouth flattened. She reached into the folder, produced a single folded sheet, and set it on the porch rail with 2 fingers. "You'll want to read that." "I will," I said. 7 o'clock, she added. "Bring some humility. Bring the minutes," I said. A gull scolded nothing in particular. The dock ticked against the pilings. Wind carried the smell of cold water and old rope from the boathouse. "We'll escalate to the board," the compliance officer told his clipboard as if it needed reassurance. "And we'll note your refusal," the board member added, practicing authority. "We're leaving." "For now," the big man said, voice low. "Let's go." They filed off in order shoes, thudding down the path. The SUV coughed away gravel, rattled, then quiet returned in overlapping layers, pine water, the faint metal sigh of the dock. I let the folded paper sit a moment longer. Then I lifted it. Notice of violation. The heading declared in bold that wasn't quite the association's brand. Unauthorized dock, $500 per day. The signature below bled as if it had been rushed. Paragraphs tried hard to sound like law and landed on theater. I set the notice back on the rail and looked toward the boathouse weathered boards, galvanized roof, a coil of line on a hook like a sleeping question mark. The lake lapped with clerkly patience, filing each small wave where it belonged. The deed tube leaned by the door where I'd left it last night after checking the parcel number for the 100th time. The cap's edge had been chewed by keys and winter. I rolled it in my palm, feeling the weight of all the rooms it had lived in, closing tables. County clerk windows, a storage unit that smelled like dust, and cardboard when I still thought I wanted a condo's quiet. "Everything all right?" "Calder, mister." Lewis called from across his deck, the cane tapping wood. "We had company," I said. "Company in March is never social," he said. "They taped your door again," he added. "Twice this month," I said. "You keeping copies every single one." Karen's SUV crested the lane on the far side of the cove and disappeared. The wind shifted. I could taste metal in it, the tang of a coming weather change, or just the scent of fresh toner. I slid the notice beneath a small river stone on the rail so it wouldn't skate away. The stone had a pale seam running through it, a vein of something tougher than the rest. I liked that about it. 7, I said quietly to the lake to myself. I took the deed tube inside and set it on the kitchen table where the light was good. The cabin's interior held the day's chill, the way old churches hold voices. I pulled a legal pad from a drawer and dated the top line March 2023. Under it, I wrote agents at 0812. Claimed Shoreline as common. Posted notice. Board 7 p.m. Outside the dock knocked once. The sound was small and patient and certain, like a clerk stamping the corner of a page. I capped the pen and returned to the porch. The notice fluttered under the stone as the wind ran a hand along the rail, then laid down. The cove looked the same as it had at sunrise, but the morning had a new seam in it, now a line I could trace with a finger and name. "See you at 7, I told the quiet. Their SUV's tracks were already softening in the gravel. By dusk, the paper felt heavier than it had that morning. I stood at the kitchen table, smoothing its corners with a thumb. Unauthorized dock, $500 per day. The bold line leaned a little, like it had been dragged across the page rather than set with care. The signature was blurred, a puddle of ink that hadn't quite dried. I took a photo on my phone, then another from a lower angle to catch the watermark or prove its absence. The page's texture was wrong for official stationery, too smooth, too thin. Whoever had printed this hadn't ordered stock from the same office that issued my deed. Outside, the porch light flickered even though I'd replaced the bulb last week. The sun was sliding behind the ridge. A breeze rippled the lake, carrying a resin smell from the pines. Mr. Lewis's cane clicked on the gravel. Evening. "Calder," he called. I stepped out holding the paper. "You've been around a while. You ever seen notices like this?" He squinted at the letterhead. "That's not their real font," he said after a moment. "And the board doesn't find daily without a hearing." "Thought so," I said. "Karen's the only one dramatic enough to write it anyway," he added, settling onto the bench by my steps. "Years back, she tried to tell the Wilsons their dock sat on community water. They laughed until she left copies of bylaws on their windshield for a month." I set the paper on the railing. "Did they cave?" "They hired counsel," Lewis said. "Cost them more than a dock should, but they kept it. She thrives on bluff." The breeze strengthened, pushing a rattle through the screen door. A line of tire tracks cut the sand near my boathouse. They hadn't been there at noon. "You see that?" I asked. Lewis followed my gaze. "Someone's been close. Not you. Not since last fall. My knees don't like sand." He rose, brushing dust from his cuff. "Watch yourself after dark. She likes to patrol." I promised I would, and walked him halfway home. The sky was bruising to indigo, a single star above the ridge. Inside, I laid the notice on the counter under a lamp and studied the margins again. The crest sat too far left. The footer used Times instead of Helvetica. I jotted notes on a yellow pad spacing off a ink-heavy font mismatch. The cabin settled with the lake's breathing. Around 9, a faint beam swept the far bank, then crawled toward my dock. I killed the lamp, letting the room darken until only the stove's pilot light held a glow. Another pass of light came, this time tight and deliberate, scanning the pilings. My shoulders prickled. I opened the door quietly and stepped onto the deck with my flashlight. The wood sighed under my boots. I kept the beam low until I reached the edge of the dock, then snapped it up toward the tree line. A figure froze for half a heartbeat. Short jacket, pale hair catching silver in the glare before sliding into shadow. Branches whispered and stilled. "Who's there?" I called. Only the water answered, tapping against posts. I swept the light once more. The pines offered nothing but darkness stitched with needles. Morning brought a brittle frost and a second paper tucked under my windshield wiper. The ink was the same urgent black. The heading bolder, immediate compliance required. The message below threatened further enforcement measures. No date, no signature this time, just a stamp-like smear that looked suspiciously like a coffee ring. I peeled it free and stood in the cold gravel staring at the empty road. Whoever delivered it had been quick or confident. The lake lay still catching the sun like a mirror. My own reflection wavered in it, thin and pale, holding a slip of counterfeit authority. Saturday slid in on a clean blue sky. The diner above the marina glowed with its usual morning glass, big windows, chrome trim, coffee steam fogging the corners. Bacon crackled somewhere behind the counter, and a waitress with a pencil in her hair moved like she was born between booths. Ray Holt was already there, leather folder by his elbow mug parked on a paper placemat jacket shoulders, carrying the kind of ease that comes from years of telling rooms to slow down and read. "Morning," he said. "Morning," I said, and slid into the seat across from him. He flipped the folder open and drew out a plat map in one practiced motion. The paper was thick and slightly yellowed, the good kind that remembers a crease. His fingertip tapped a heavy black line that hugged my cove the way a shoreline hugs a secret. "This is the county's latest," he said. "Recorded 2019, amended only to change a parcel name, not a boundary. They posted a notice," I said. "Two, actually. One looks like it was printed on a home office in a hurry. Show me." I passed him photos on my phone. He zoomed, pinched, and grunted once. "Letterhead's wrong," he said. "Footer's wrong. I'd wager the signature is nobody on the board." "It was smeared," I said. "Like a stamp that didn't land." "Bluff." He put the phone down and drew a legal pad toward him. "But bluff works if it goes unchallenged on paper." The waitress stopped. "You two want?" "The usual." Ray glanced at me. "Coffee and eggs," I said. "Toast." "Same," Ray said. When she left, he turned the plat so it faced me. "Let's talk about how they'll come." "Hard sideways," he said. "They'll attack your credibility before your claim." I looked past him through the glass at the lake glittering like it had forgotten what trouble was. "How do I keep that from sticking paper trail?" he said. "Log every interaction. Date, time, who said what. Photograph every posting. Save envelopes. Use certified mail when you respond." "They told me to bring humility," I said. "Bring a binder," he said. "Humility is optional." Our plates arrived, eggs bright as small suns, toast stacked like shingles. He ate like a man who didn't rush at breakfast. When he was ready, he slid the plat back to the top. "Your deed." I took the rolled tube from my bag and unscrewed the cap. The paper breathed as I unrolled it, the weight of someone else's signatures and a blue county stamp that had made 10 trips across a counter before reaching me. Ray smoothed the bottom edge with 2 fingers like a ritual. "Meets and bounds," he said, satisfied. "Mouth to mouth of the cove." That line he tapped isn't a suggestion. It's a fence erected in ink. Whoever waves a memo at you is waving past this. "They keep saying established use," I said. "They can say moonlight if they want," he said. "Use is not title." "What about easements?" I asked. "There's a maintenance road that kisses my north fence. Utility easement," he said, flipping to a smaller sheet clipped behind the plat. 10-foot strip for repair trucks. It's not a footpath for board members to conduct theatrics. "They brought 5 people to my dock," I said. "One with a radio." "That's theater," he said. "They're hoping you flinch into a mistake." "What mistake would that be?" "Yelling on camera," he said. "Dismissing a legitimate notice without reading it. Failing to appear when invited. Anything that lets them paint you as unreasonable or sloppy or new." "I'm none of those," I said. "I know," he said. "But your neighbors don't. Not yet. So we make it easy for the room to follow the paper." He wrote on his pad in neat little lines, "Log, date, time, os agent, os quote. Photos, notice, placement, envelope. Minutes, request, certified copies. Bylaws, section, references ready. Reply, certified mail. 2 copies, plain. Language, minutes, I said." They bristled when I said it. "Because minutes expose habits," he said. "Habits tell stories that bylaws don't. If they've been sloppy with motions, sloppy with notices, sloppy with votes, we won't need adjectives. We'll need a projector." "Projector," I said. "You're serious?" "Clarity wins," he said. "When a room can see a line and a date, the room gets brave." The waitress poured more coffee. "You two, building a boat? Something that floats?" Ray said. She smiled and moved on. "They called my dock an encroachment," I said. "They said Shoreline is common." He placed my deed and the plat side by side. "Read this," he said, and he pointed to the call that described the cove like a sentence only old surveyors write. He let me trace it with a fingertip, the words that had seemed like numbers until they connected to something the lake itself understood. "Now this," he said, tapping the plat's legend. no common shoreline designated on your parcel, and no recorded amendment shifting that line. They'd need a vote, then a filing to even begin that conversation. They said, "We'll escalate to the board," I said. "Good," he said. "Then we escalate to the record." He leaned back. "There's one more thing." "What's that?" "Bring a witness," he said. "Not me. Well, me too, but a neighbor who isn't angry at anyone. Someone who can say, 'I saw notices taped at odd hours. I saw a flashlight at the boathouse. I saw tire tracks that weren't his.'" "Lewis," I said. "Perfect," he said. "He has the gait of truth." I smiled. "He has a cane that keeps time." Ray tore a page from his pad and pushed it toward me. "Template language. If you reply, keep it simple," he read as his pen tracked the line. "This is to acknowledge receipt of your document. My parcel is recorded as Lot 12, including the shoreline described in Deed Book 3412. Page 77. If you believe the record is otherwise, please provide the specific recording information. I will appear at the meeting to answer questions. Respectfully, no adjectives." I said. "No adjectives," he echoed. "Let the nouns do it." I took a breath and let the diner's noise settle. The lake glittered beyond the glass like a witness keeping quiet until called. Somewhere a kid laughed. Somewhere a spatula clanged. The world continued to be ordinary. "You think this goes to a hearing?" I asked. "If they've already brought 5 people to your dock," he said, "they'll need a stage to save face. That's a hearing. You'll be there." "I'll be in the second row," he said. "I'll shake my head when you're tempted to get clever. I'll point when the clerk forgets to swear someone in, and if they quote bylaws, you'll quote a line and stop," he said. "1 line per scene. Then you'll say, 'Here are the minutes.'" He sipped his coffee and set it down like a gavel that fell too softly to scare anyone. "Ray," I said, "why do people treat paper like a suggestion?" "Because it's quiet," he said, "and loud feels like power." He closed the folder slow and sure. But the room always finds the quiet again. We paid at the register, and he tucked the plat back into his folder like a photograph of someone he loved. We stepped toward the door with the small bell that made everyone look up out of habit. "Before you go," he said, hand on the push bar, "remember they'll come for your credibility before your claim." I nodded. "So, I'm boring, and I'm prepared." "Exactly," he said, and pushed the door open. Sun and wind met us. Across the lot, a woman paced by a dark SUV phone clamped to her ear. Even with her back turned, I recognized the tilt of her shoulders. Karen walked a small circle, talking fast eyes on the diner window, as if it were a mirror. "Don't wave," Ray said lightly. "Let her wonder if we saw her." "We did," I said. "We did," he said. The bell finished its tinny ring behind us. The lake threw light at the glass until the inside of the diner flashed like a signal. Saturday arrived bright over the lake. I found Ray Holt at the diner by the merino leather folder waiting on the table beside his coffee. "Morning," he said. "Morning." I slid into the booth. Ray opened the folder and laid out a plat map. He tapped the thick line wrapping my cove. County record. Last change 2019. Name only, not boundary. They've posted notices, I said. 2 so far. 1 looked home-printed. "Show me." I passed him photos. He studied, then shook his head. Letterheads off, signature sloppy, likely a bluff. The waitress stopped with a pad. "Jour coffee and eggs," I said. "Same," Ray added. He waited until she left, then set a legal pad between us. "Bluff only works if you let it. They'll escalate. They'll try to rattle you," he said. "Attack your credibility before your claim." I glanced through the window. The lake glittered steady as a ledger. "How do I stay ahead?" Paper Trail Ray said. "Log every visit date and time. Photograph postings. Keep envelopes. Reply by certified mail, short factual." He reached for my tube. "Let's see your deed." I unrolled the parchment. The blue stamp caught the diner light. Ray smoothed it flat, then lined up the plat map beside it. Mouth to mouth, he said, tracing the meets and bounds. "No common shoreline noted. Whoever printed threats doesn't outrank this. They mentioned established use." "Use isn't title," he said. "Without a recorded amendment and a vote, they're bluffing." I pointed to a strip on the map. "Maintenance track here, could they claim an easement?" "Utility only," he said. "For trucks, not board patrol." The waitress slid plates onto the table. Toast, steamed coffee refilled. "They marched 5 people to my dock," I said. 1 with a radio. "Stagecraft," Ray said. "They want you flustered on camera. What's the right move?" "Be dull," he said, "and thorough." He jotted, log, who, when, quote, photos, Every paper minutes request certified copies. Bylaws keep sections handy. And answer politely, he added. 1 line from the deed is worth 10 speeches. I nodded, buttering toast. So, I bring a binder, not adjectives. Exactly, he smiled. Rooms respect clean nouns. Ray drafted a reply template reading aloud. Acknowledging receipt. My parcel is Lot 12 Shoreline included per deed book 3412 P. 77. Please provide any contrary recording. I'll attend the meeting. No fluff, I said. None, he agreed. He sipped coffee, eyes still on the map. Bring a witness, he added. A calm neighbor who's seen the notices. Lewis, I said. He's perfect. Sun spilled across the counter. Plates clinked. Someone laughed near the jukebox. For a moment, the dispute felt far away. Then Ray leaned forward. Remember, they'll test your credibility first. I stay boring. I stay prepared. That's it. We paid. As we stepped out, a bell rang behind us and March air rushed in. Across the lot, Karen paced beside a dark SUV phone tight to her ear. Even through the glass, I knew the angle of her shoulders. Ray's voice was easy. Don't wave. I won't, I said. Good. He glanced once more at her reflection in the diner window, then back at me. Let her wonder if we noticed. We had. The email arrived just after lunch, subject line plain as a brick boundary clarification. No signature block, no greeting. Only a PDF attachment that opened to a low-res plat with the thick black line around my cove. Gone. Where the meets and bounds should have read like a hymn, there was blur, eraser dust turned to pixels. A red slash cut across the beach like an insult. Thunder rolled somewhere behind the ridge. The cabin's windows carried the sound as a long, patient complaint. I set the laptop aside and reached for the deed tube, then stopped. The cap was nicked from years of opening, but I left it sealed. The original had earned its rest. I pulled the working copy from a file instead, the one already creased from repetition. I laid the forged map beside my certified copy on the kitchen table. The room smelled faintly of rain and coffee grounds. The ceiling light made a flat, honest plane on both pages. Let's see how you lied, I said to the pixels. I aligned, corners squinted at bearings traced the call that described the cove. On the forgery, the key call was smudged away, replaced by a line that cut inland to swallow my dock into common. Whoever had done it had taken just enough time to be dangerous and not enough to be careful. I snapped photos with my phone, top left corner seal area legend, the red slash. Then I texted Ray, me got anonymous boundary map. My line erased red slash through beach. Ray, save the file, plus headers, screenshots, print 2 copies write received, plus timestamp. Me, comparing to certified copy now. Bearings altered. Ray, catalog it. We'll let paper speak. Me thunder rolling. Ray, good. Storms make rooms listen. I printed the forged map and wrote the time across the bottom. The printer coughed like it disliked the job. I stapled the fake to a blank sheet and slid it into a manila folder labeled Doctorate. The word looked too dramatic, then not dramatic enough. The porch light flickered twice, though it wasn't yet evening. I made a note on the legal pad. 4:18 p.m. Light flicker. Guardrails for later so the story would walk straight. I opened my binder and started a timeline, stapling the first notice into a plastic sleeve. The second, immediate compliance required, went behind it. I added a divider for emails, another for minutes, and a third for photos. The binder felt heavier as it gathered habits. I pulled up the association's website and clicked through to a PDF minutes February meeting. Past due assessments, landscaping a motion to increase late fees, seconded passed. Then, discussion regarding lake access and enforcement posture. No motion, no vote. A line that said, Board will coordinate with compliance to clarify boundaries. I printed those minutes and slid them into the binder under minutes with a little orange tab. The orange looked like a small, cheerful warning. Thunder stepped closer. The wind fiddled the porch screen in its frame. A small SUV crunched onto the gravel. I closed the binder and set it square on the table. When I opened the door, Karen was halfway up the steps, a white envelope in her hand. Her hair was pinned tight. Her voice arrived ahead of her. Final notice, she said. That was quick, I said. Deadlines clarify, she said, holding the envelope as if it were an award. Is this one printed straight? I asked. Excuse me. The header, I said. You've had trouble with it. Her smile did not change, but the skin at her jaw did. This is your last chance to comply voluntarily. Voluntarily with the fiction, I said. "The Shoreline is common," she said. "Always has been. Show me the recording," I said, "or the vote that changed it." "Don't be clever," she said. "Just sign. Bring the minutes," I said. "We don't litigate on porches," she said. "We don't invent plats in emails either," I said. She looked past me toward the table where the binder sat. "You're making this more painful than it needs to be." "Painful is a strange word for reading," I said. She set the envelope on the top step as if it might bite her. "Sign or face removal," she said, voice clipped. "Removal by whom I asked." "From what?" "The board," she said. "From encroachment." "Then we'll let the record speak," I said. She drew a quick breath, the kind that fuels a speech, then swallowed it. Her gaze flicked to the deed tube, leaned in its corner, then back to my face. The thunder grumbled like an old man settling in his chair. "I'll see you at the meeting," she said. "You will?" I said. Her shoes rang once on the top step as she turned. The porch light flickered again, unhelpful witness. The SUV reversed without the courtesy of a look. I carried the envelope to the table and slit it with a butter knife. "Final notice," screamed from the top line, the association crest grimly present, but still wrong in its spacing. The body threatened fines and further action. The signature block was a blank rectangle, as though the author hadn't found a name brave enough. I photographed it against the wood grain and tucked it behind the first two notices. The binder sighed under the new page. I added a note to the timeline. 4:31 p.m. Final notice delivered by hand. No signature. I texted Ray again. Me, final notice just arrived. No signature. Ray, good. Catalog. Me, minutes from Feb, mention enforcement posture, no vote. Printed. Ray, excellent. Bring binder. Ask clerk to read that line aloud. I wrote, "Ask clerk to read line" on a sticky and stuck it to the minutes. The small firmness of the note made the room feel steadier. Outside, the first big drops hit the porch roof, each a soft thud. The cabin gathered the rain like an old friend. I moved back to the laptop and pulled up the forged PDF again. In the Properties pane, I checked author blank. Title, Boundary Final 2, modified that morning. Application, a consumer PDF editor. I took screenshots and printed them. Another orange tab, metadata. The rain came harder. The light in the room went gray and honest. I could hear the lake change from skin to muscle. I stood a minute with the deed tube in my hand, tempted to uncap it to let the original breathe on the table and make every other page in the room fall into line. But it didn't need to. Its power sat in reserve like a last word you say for when words matter most. I put the tube back in its corner and closed the binder one more time, palm flat, the way a clerk closes a book that has to be opened again soon. "Okay," I said to the quiet, to the rain, to whatever watched from a parked car 2 curves down the lane. "We'll do it your way." I switched off the porch light, locked the door, and felt the cabin settle around me like a witness taking its seat. I'd face the board. The clubhouse smelled like burnt coffee and pledge. Fluorescents hummed above a row of folding chairs, their legs chewing the carpet as neighbors shifted. I walked in with Ray beside me, deed tube tucked under my arm. Binder square in my hands. Karen stood near the front, her agents around her, a manila folder pressed to her chest like a life vest. The chair wrapped a gavel the size of a salt shaker. "This meeting will come to order," the secretary read from a sheet. "Roll call taken. Quorum present. Agenda item 5. Shoreline compliance at North Cove." Karen lifted her chin. "I'll begin. For decades, the shoreline has been common property under our covenants. Mr. Reese's dock and fencing constitute encroachments." Ray leaned toward the table. "Agenda and minutes for the record, please." The secretary blinked. "They're posted online." "Paper for the room," Ray said, calm as a metronome. The chair nodded. "Printouts are somewhere. Please continue, Miss Chalmers." Karen spread a memo on the table. "This reflects established use and the board's enforcement posture." "Posture is not title," I said. "Sir, you'll have your turn," the chair said. "Respectfully, his point is germane," Ray said. "Before claims of common shoreline, the record must show a recorded amendment." A board member cleared his throat. "We have an understanding." "Understanding isn't recording," I said. I set my binder down and opened it. Certified Survey County Plat Deed, Book 3412, page 77. Karen placed her palm on her memo. "He's cherry-picking documents." Clerk Ray said enter Mr. Reese's certified survey as Exhibit A. The secretary fumbled for a sticky label. Exhibit. A. A neighbor in the second row raised a hand. Point of order, can we see it? The chair sighed. Projector. A volunteer rolled a cart forward. The fan clicked on blowing warm plastic across the front row. Mr. Reese, the chair said, state your basis. I unrolled the survey and pointed to the heavy line that hugged my cove. Meets and bounds. Mouth to mouth. No common shoreline designated on my parcel. No recorded amendment shifting this line. Karen's smile was fixed. We have minutes reflecting board intent. Minutes of what Ray asked. Motion, second, vote. The secretary flipped through a binder of her own. February. Discussion regarding lake access and enforcement posture. No. Motion recorded. Ray tapped his legal pad with his pen. Thank you. So noted. Karen squared her shoulders. Intent predates Mr. Reese's purchase. Intent can predate gravity, I said. But the rock still falls. A small laugh moved through the chairs before the room remembered it wasn't supposed to. A board member leaned forward. We're not here for metaphors. We're here for paper, Ray said. Bylaws, Section 5.4. Common property alterations shall require a member vote and shall be recorded. One sentence, that's all. Karen pointed at my dock in a photo. It's an eyesore. Aesthetics are not jurisdiction, I said. The chair lifted a hand. Let's keep this procedural. Ray slid another page forward. Exhibit B, HOA, minutes February. Please read the line regarding enforcement posture. The secretary read voice small. Board will coordinate with compliance to clarify boundaries. No motion. No vote. Ray said. No recording. Karen's jaw tightened. We have a memo. And I have the county, I said. The projector threw the certified survey onto the wall. The heavy line looked like a shoreline even from the back row. The legend sat crisp. The blue stamp held its own light. A neighbor in the doorway called, Looks clear to me. Karen snapped, That neighbor is not recognized. Ray didn't turn. Madam Chair motioned to acknowledge that any claim of common shoreline over Lot 12 is unsupported pending proof of a recorded amendment. The chair frowned. Mr. Holt, you're not a member. A board member lifted a hand. I'll make that motion. Another second. The chair hesitated, eyes on my rolled tube. Before we proceed, Mr. Reese, is that the original deed? I set the binder down and lifted the tube a little. It is. The room shifted. You could feel the sound thin. The chair nodded toward it like one nods toward a witness who has not yet spoken. Let's see that original, she said. Ray whispered, Your choice. I kept my hand on the cap and didn't twist. With respect, the certified survey and recorded deed book page are sufficient for tonight. The original will be available at any formal hearing. Karen exhaled through her nose. He's hiding behind a prop. He's protecting an original, Ray said, and keeping us in order. The chair adjusted her glasses. All right. Discussion on the motion. Karen thumped her folder on the table. Discussion, established use, matters. Our members have always treated the shoreline as common. Then, show the record, I said. Give us the book and page. We'll need time to assemble the file, a board member murmured. From the back, we voted on a fire pit once. We can vote on this. The chair tapped the table with the gavel. Let's stay on rails. All in favor of the motion to acknowledge the lack of a recorded amendment at this time. Hands went up unsure, then steadier. A few stayed down, Karen's among them. Opposed, Karen's hand shot up. 2 board members followed. Motion? Carries, the chair said, surprised at herself. Karen's voice sharpened. This is reckless. Ray leaned toward me. Breathe. I did. Karen faced the room. If the board won't act on long-standing practice, we will escalate. The chair tried for soothing. Miss Chalmers, full hearing. Karen said louder now, color high in her cheeks. Next week, we'll bring our file. We'll bring counsel. We'll prove common and we'll compel removal. The chair cleared her throat. Then the board will schedule a hearing for next Thursday, 7 p.m. Town Hall. Clerk, note it. Pens moved. The projector hummed. Somewhere the coffee pot clicked itself off. I slid the certified survey back into its sleeve and closed the binder. The deed tube stayed sealed under my palm, quiet, as a promise held for later. Outside the glass doors, night pressed against the panes. Inside, the heavy line on the wall kept hugging my cove like a fact that had survived the room. The town hall smelled of polish and faint dust. Rows of folding chairs filled with neighbors, their voices low with curiosity. Oak paneling caught the afternoon light. A microphone clicked as the chairperson raised a gavel. Item 1, the clerk read. Claim of common shoreline over lot. 12 North Cove. Ray smoothed a transcript form beside him. Clarity wins, he whispered. I straightened my binder hand steady. The projector hummed ready. Karen stood folder clutched. The association asserts this shoreline is common. Mr. Reese's dock and fencing violate community use. The chair nodded toward me. Response. I rose. Exhibit A, certified survey boundary encloses my cove. Exhibit B, deed. Deed book 3412 P77. Exhibit C, unsigned notices posted without vote or amendment. Karen's eyes narrowed. Those notices reflected intent. Intent isn't title, Ray said. Mr. Holt, the chair warned. Ray inclined his head. Point noted. A board member asked, any recorded amendment? Karen hesitated. Discussions predate his purchase. Book and page, the chair asked. Silence. The clerk opened the bylaws. Section 5.4. Changes to common property require member vote and recording. A soft murmur ran through the hall. Karen gestured to the projected map. Members have always shared this shoreline fishing events. Use isn't ownership, I said quietly. The chair gestured. Mr. Reese, anything further? Yes. I held up a printout. Metadata from a March email shows a plat altered in a PDF editor. No author field. Objection. Smearing the board, Karen snapped. Sustained, the chair said. Facts only. The clerk slid the printout behind the survey, marked as Exhibit D. From the fourth row, Lewis lifted a hand. February minutes said only, clarify boundaries. No motion. Clerk read it, the chair said. The line appeared on screen. The room leaned closer. Ray murmured, stay with the paper. Karen's voice thinned. We'll supply files later. Tonight we decide on what exists, the chair said. Members' discussion. A director cleared her throat. Without an amendment, Lot 12 holds its shoreline. Another added, posting drafts as fines was improper. Karen turned to the audience. If we lose this shared value, recorded evidence, Ms. Chalmers, the chair asked. No, Ray whispered. Time. The chair looked around. Motion. The clerk read that the board finds no recorded claim over Mr. Reese's shoreline. Second said a member. All in favor. Hands rose tentative, then firm. Opposed, only Karen and two others. The motion carries, the chair announced. Clerk, note the ruling. The gavel tapped. Relief moved through the hall like air released. Karen pushed back her chair. This isn't done, she said. There are other channels. Ms. Chalmers, the chair said, but she was already leaving papers rattling. Ray folded the transcript template with care. Good work. I didn't open the original, I said, glancing at the deed tube. You didn't need to, he said. The paper you brought was enough. I looked at the heavy line on the projected map, quiet solid, hugging the cove, even as the light faded. It felt less like ink than shoreline itself. We packed our binders while the clerk finished notes. The hall settled into stillness, carrying the echo of the vote. Outside, the glass reflected us. Ray, calm, me, steady, at last holding a binder that no longer shook. Sunlight skimmed silver across Horsetooth, turning the mist into slow ribbons. For the first time in weeks, the lake looked like a lake again, not a question. Coffee steamed from my mug. The porch smelled of pine and damp boards. Near the boathouse, narrow tire prints curved toward the lane, stopping just short of the water. They looked recent, as if someone had checked the view one last time. Ray's Subaru rolled in. He stepped out with a paper bag and a thin folder. Breakfast and follow-up, he said. What's inside, blueberry muffins? He grinned, and filings for the clerk. We sat on the steps. The muffins were warm crumbs catching the light. Sleep at all? Ray asked. Like someone unplugged the noise, I said. He opened the folder. Letter to memorialize the ruling request for corrected minutes and an optional notice for the county. None are required, but clarity lasts. I'll take clarity. Mr. Lewis arrived, cane knocking a steady rhythm. He paused at the tire marks, then joined us. Morning, boys, he said. Morning, Ray replied. Lewis looked at me. I misjudged you. Thought keeping quiet meant losing ground. Quiet worked, I said. Thanks for pointing out those minutes. He shrugged. Paper beats shouting. Ray slid a form my way. Sign here clerk copy, and here courtesy copy to compliance. I signed, letting the pen hover before each line as if sealing the calm. He clipped the pages neatly. Louis glanced at the lake. Karen drove past at dawn. Slow. I saw the tracks. She'll hunt a new angle, he warned. I'll keep the binder close, I said. Ray stood. Time to restore that deed. Inside, the copy on my desk still bore red pencil slashes from the forged map. The original waited in its tube, the cap scratched from travel. Ray laid a towel on the table. Let's handle this like evidence. I eased the paper out. It unfurled with a soft sigh stamped steady in the light. Ready, he asked. Ready. We slipped the deed beneath new glass, smoothed the edges, and set the frame against the wall. Nails tapped into place. The paper settled behind clear shine. Louis nodded. That belongs where folks can see it. It isn't a trophy, I said. No, he said. It's proof. Ray stepped back, restored. Outside, an engine idled. Karen's SUV stood near the dock windows dark. She studied the porch. Ray Lewis, the muffins, my binder. Then she pressed the accelerator, gravel spitting as the car disappeared up the lane. Ray let out a breath. Not her last encore. Maybe the last one here, I said. Louis smiled faintly. I'll keep watch anyway. Ray tapped the folder. 2 final signatures. Then we'll walk these to the clerk. I signed. He tucked the papers away. Neighbors treating you better, he asked. Patel dropped chilly. The Schmidts loaned a ladder I didn't need. Feels like a wrong season Thanksgiving. Good sign, Ray said. Let them share the result. It steadies the next storm. We strolled the shoreline. The dock boards were warm now, and sun blurred the tire prints. Louis tapped the sand. Planning to celebrate. Something small, I said. Coffee and pie. Saturday. Maybe hot dogs. Ray chuckled. Minutes and mustard. I could print the vote, I said. Perfect centerpiece, he said. Back on the porch, I studied the framed deed. The lines felt less like ink than a steady shoreline, a full stop on months of noise. Thanks, Ray, I said. You earned it, he replied. I just pointed at nouns. Louis tipped his hat. I'll bring brownies. No nuts. Deal. Ray scribbled a note. I'll send a 1-page for guests what we decided, not what I won. Language matters, I said. Always, Ray agreed. Mist lifted, leaving clean blue water. After they left, Ray with the folder, Louis pacing the path, I stood a while letting quiet spread over the porch. Inside, the deed caught the sun without distortion. Outside, the last marks near the boathouse faded. I poured another cup, opened my notebook, and wrote Saturday, 4 p.m. Neighbors, welcome. Coffee, pie, and the vote. I underlined vote, once light. Texting the Cove group, I kept it short. Saturday on the porch. We'll close the book together. The lake answered with its usual hush, a lap against posts, as if agreeing. Smoke curled from the grill cedar and pepper sweet in the air. The lake shone hard blue, a mirror cut by faint ripples. On the picnic table, the framed deed stood upright on an easel glass, catching sunlight instead of glare. Neighbors arrived in clusters. Children chased a ball across the dock, laughter splashing louder than the lake. Ray parked and stepped out with lemonade. Ceremony fuel, he said. Approved. I answered, turning a burger. The board chair crossed the grass carrying a slim folder. Karen lingered by the lane, arms folded behind sunglasses. Ready for the record? The chair asked. After the burgers, I said. Louis placed a pan of brownies near the cooler. Don't let the kids near these, he warned. I trust your cane as security, I said. When plates filled, I lowered the grill. Thanks for coming, I said, voice steady. It's been a long few weeks. Paper got loud, but it worked. Polite laughter rolled through the crowd. This isn't about winning, I added. It's about clarity. The shoreline's mine to maintain. The water is ours to share. The chair opened her folder. The board's written finding, she said. No recorded amendment creates common shoreline over Lot 12. The association holds no claim. Minutes, corrected copy, filed with the clerk. Exhibit for the picnic, Ray said, handing the ruling to a neighbor who passed it around with barbecue sauce on his fingers. Karen's chin lifted unreadable. Plenty of food, I said to her, easy. She stayed where she was. Mrs. Patel raised a jar. To paper that keeps peace, she said. Here Louis said cane tapping. The chair gestured to the easel. That's the original, the deed I said, back where it belongs. She photographed it carefully. A boy tugged at my sleeve. Can we fish now? You always could, I said. Just mind the hooks. Ray leaned close. Good use of we, he murmured. The chair cleared her throat. On behalf of the board, I regret the confusion. Future enforcement will follow recorded votes. Mr. Schmidt nodded. Rules that stay put. And brownies, Lewis added, earning a ripple of laughter. Karen stepped forward a pace. Glad you're satisfied, she said. I'm glad the record is, I replied. She looked at the lake, then back, but said nothing more. Gravel shifted as she returned to her SUV and drove off without a Reverend Ray exhaled. Might be her quiet exit. I'll take it, I said. The chair turned back. Motion to acknowledge receipt of the clerk's notice. Motion said one director. Second said another. All in favor? She asked. Hands lifted across the dock and grass informal but sure. No one opposed. She closed the folder, shoulders easing. Ray bumped my arm. Your turn. I touched the frame lightly. For anyone still worried, today's only assessment is on burgers. Laughter loosened what tension remained. Plates scraped. Voices grew light. Who brought pie? Lewis called. Mrs. Patel, someone answered. After pie, I told a boy holding a fishing pole. Always after pie. Ray sipped lemonade. This is how decisions should end, he said. Warm and sticky, I asked. Readable, he smiled. With mustard. The chair folded the finding and set it near the easel. Keep that copy clean, she said. The clerk's has enough fingerprints. Neighbors queued for seconds chatting about fishing lines and summer concerts. A director knelt to show kids where to stand when casting. Lewis studied the deed. Ink outlives temper, he said. Your father's words? I asked. He liked plain proof, Lewis said. Ray checked his watch. Before I leave, one last toast. Go on, I said. He lifted his glass. To paper that spoke to neighbors who listened and to a dock that stays steady. Here, voices answered. Applause rose. Palms, cups, even a spoon against a plate. It moved over the dock and back from the water softer, but complete. I looked at Ray, then at the chair at Lewis with his steady cane at the neighbors holding cups. The framed deed glowed as if pleased. When food dwindled and the light turned warm gold, I slid the ruling back into its sleeve and left the frame on display. The dock boards held a mild heat through my shoes. I stood a moment at the edge, hands in my pockets, lake calm below. No speeches left, no files waiting. Just quiet water, steady shore, and the sound of the children lowering lines into late sunlight. For the first time since March, my breath felt level. The cove lay like a promise kept. Sunlight thinned across the dock as the crowd drifted home, leaving the framed deed steady on its easel. I brushed a thumb over the glass where the paper lay whole again, a quiet promise under varnish. Justice isn't loud. It writes minutes, posts them, and trusts people to read. We didn't win by shouting we grilled, we signed, we shared the lake until the paper matched our patience. Even Karen's retreat felt less like defeat than room for peace. If a notice has ever pressed too hard on your porch, tell me how you and your neighbors set the record straight.